Prime Minister's questions. Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, question number 1 to the Prime Minister. Given that the Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda recent announcements of plans to liquidate the regional airline Liat, and given the fact that Caribbean Airlines suffered an estimated operating loss of TT $96.1 million between the period March to April 2020, could the Prime Minister inform this House whether CAL will commence a restructuring exercise before the resumption of full operation?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, CAL continues to review its operations on a continuous basis in line with industry best practices to ensure the company's survival, including prior to its resumption of its full operations.
Supplemental, member for Couva South.
Minister, given that the operating loss was up to 2020, are you in a position to, for example, provide us with an update on the operating loss, as, let us say, up to June of 2020?
I know that you know that I can't tell you that just like that. So I will advise, Madam Speaker, that this be filed on notice.
Supplemental, member for Couva South.
Prime Minister, given what has been happening in the airline industry worldwide, major airlines have embarked on restructuring exercises and job losses into the thousands and so on, regionally and internationally. Are you in a position to guarantee that when CAL resumes its full operation, there will be no job losses?
I will not allow that as a supplemental question based on the question asked and answered. Member for Oropuch, member for Point-a-Pierre.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question number 2, could the Honourable Prime Minister outline the timetable proposed for the work and report of the Cabinet-appointed Community Recovery Programme team?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the committee has just been mentioned a few hours ago. The committee has not met, and this question is premature.
Supplemental, member for Oropuch.
In light of the establishment of this committee and the announcement, is the Prime Minister aware of a 2013 extensive 437-page report, No Time to Quit, Engaging Youth at Risk, led by Professor Selwyn Ryan, which addresses exactly the same set of issues that are being proposed for the Watkins Committee?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, if those issues were addressed, as my good friend would like us to believe, I would like him to assist by telling us how it was addressed, because the way it was addressed by Live Sport is quite different to what is being done now. This committee is to create an action plan for determining and taking actual responses to the situation. We are not Live Sport believers.
Supplemental, member for Oropuch.
Yes. To the Prime Minister, does the Prime Minister believe that this is a proper use of both time and resources to establish a committee to do the exact work that was done before by another committee appointed by another cabinet?
Madam Speaker, the misunderstanding of the situation that is being demonstrated by my colleague from Oropuch in no way hinders what is going to be done by this committee and this government.
Supplemental.
Is the Prime Minister in a position to say whether or not the government is embarking upon the work of a committee mere weeks before a general election so that an incoming government will have to pay for such work that was done already?
I rule your question out of order. Member for Couva North.
Madam Speaker, could the Prime Minister inform the House whether he intends to have government representatives meet with the communities of East Port of Spain, Beetham Gardens and Morva for meaningful discussions?
Madam Speaker, all members of government meet with their constituents as their representatives on a continuous basis, and this week and last week and next week will be no different.
Member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Given the impending general elections in this country and the fact that thousands of our nationals are still stranded in many other countries and are anxious to return home, could the Prime Minister inform the House when he intends to facilitate the speedy return of our citizens who would like to exercise their franchise in the forthcoming general elections?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the government of Trinidad and Tobago continues on an ongoing basis in a pandemic to keep its border closed as required and as advised by the health experts. But at the same time, we facilitate on an ongoing basis persons who are outside of the country, and we will continue so to do until whenever the borders are opened.
Supplemental member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Prime Minister, have you been advised by the Ministry of Health or the Minister of National Security as to when our borders should reopen?
Madam Speaker, the government is advised on an ongoing basis, and actions taken by the government will be determined by the advice at the time when the action is to be taken.
Supplemental member for Caroni East.
Minister, do you have any idea of about how many nationals who normally reside here have made applications for returning back to Trinidad?
Prime Minister.
Well, Madam Speaker, there's no database of how many nationals who normally reside here, because there are persons who come here once in a while and regard themselves as residing here. And there are persons who are outside, and we try to facilitate in the context of what we are dealing with. And I just want to remind members that we are still in a global pandemic which is increasing around us, and we are responding to preserve the health of the people in Trinidad and Tobago. It is quite easy for members to begin to believe that there is no pandemic or that we have passed the worst. It is only that we have done well enough to evade the ravages of the pandemic.
Member for Caroni Central.
Madam Speaker, given the Prime Minister's mention in yesterday's press conference of the Mova Lavantil School Improvement Project, could the Prime Minister inform this House as to how this project has improved student outcomes in the 25 schools that were part of the project?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I crave your indulgence for some extra time to answer this question, and you may want to consider that, and my colleagues may want to consider it. Madam Speaker, with respect to literacy and teacher training and development, there was a 23% increase in the number of students scoring in the no-risk range of the oral reading fluency test, which was administered in the primary schools, along with a 43% in students moving up into higher category by Standard 3 compared to where they were in Standard 1. There was an 11% increase in the number of students reading at class level among the Form 1 students in the 2017 to 2018 academic year. Visual and performing arts was introduced as a strategy to teach literacy and numeracy. And Madam Speaker, with respect to numeracy, there was an overall increase in the average score of Standard 1 students on national test equivalent assessments, with 13 schools showing improvement at either the Standard 1 or the Standard 3 level, and 6 schools showing improvement at both the Standard 1 and Standard 3 level. There was a 34.2% decrease in the number of reported infractions with respect to violence and indiscipline. And during 2018, among the most noteworthy improvements were Lavantil Boys Government Primary and Morvant AC, whose total number of infractions decreased from 21 and 25 respectively to 0 in 2019. There was a 56.7% reduction in the number of suspensions from 26 in 2016 to 11 in 2018. There was a 41% decrease in incidence of truancy from 78 in 2016 to 46 in 2018. There was a 55% reduction in the reported cases of bullying from 103 cases in 2016 to 46 in 2018.
Prime Minister, honourable members, the time for this response to this question is spent. I did hear the Prime Minister's request, so I put it to the House, the wish of the House that the time be extended to complete this answer.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much, and I thank my colleagues. There was a 53.8% reduction in the number of infractions recorded from 821 in 2016 to 379 in 2018. There was a 20.6% reduction in the number of suspensions from 320 in 2016 to 254 in 2018. Over the 2016 to 2018 period, there was a 12.7% decrease in the number of dropouts reported. There was a 41% decrease in the reported cases of bullying in that area at the secondary school level. With respect to primary and secondary schools, school discipline action plans were developed and submitted for all 25 schools in the program, and implementation has commenced. Basic procedures for ensuring orders in schools, inclusive of searches, patrols, entry protocols, and supervision rosters, were developed and implemented in all 25 schools. Track and field saw the highest level of participation with an average yearly involvement of 48% of the schools, followed by football with 30% of schools. 625 students from 22 schools participated in the 5-day lunchtime musical production, which attracted audiences from around the area with parental support for the schools. With respect to parenting in education, Madam Speaker, a total of 718 workshop sessions covering 32 different topics were held in order to meet the objectives of parenting in education component. Individual parenting counseling sessions were held to assist parents to cope and minimize several psychosocial issues they were experiencing. A total of 514 parents benefited, 160 at the primary school level and 454 at the secondary school level. Several parenting initiatives were held inclusive of workshops, parent rally, parent volunteer week, parent focus support groups, parent outreach program, parent association group, parent space and parent exchange program. There were 3 fathers program sessions which were conducted to provide support to fathers, single fathers, and fathers of male students. 20 whole-day parenting in education sessions were conducted by the 4 disciplines of the Student Support Services Division of the Ministry of Education. A special education clinic was initiated for parents of children with speech and language delays. A parent in-reach support group was created in collaboration with NGO Foundation for the Enhancement and Enrichment of Life field. Parents and their children benefited from the community healthcare initiative that was provided by field. 315 homes were visited. They were conducted to foster among parents the importance of their children's education, improve the relationship between the home and school, engender care and protection of students, and to render any additional support and or services the family may require. 95 parents received food hampers, clothing and shoes, cleaning supplies. And Madam Speaker, finally, a total of 488 students were screened. Of these, 325 were identified as at risk. Parent workshop addressed intervention strategies for this group. I thank my colleague for the opportunity.
Supplemental, member for Caroni Central.
Yes, thank you very much, Prime Minister. I'm heartened by the fact that there were metrics, and secondly, that the results seem quite favorable and progressive. Does that mean, Prime Minister, that this program will continue for some time? And is the coordination...
So one question.
Sorry,
yes?
I think I understand the question. Madam Speaker, the answer is yes. This program It was a large pilot project. Given the results I've just read out, the pilot project has been very successful. And as was stated in the beginning, the intention is to continue it in the Greater Laventille area and to take it into other at-risk areas in the country.
Okay.
Supplemental member for Caroni Central.
Yeah. Is the coordinating committee that was responsible for this still intact?
Most of it is. Most of it is, but it has been disrupted since February as a result of our response to the COVID-19. But we intend to reconstitute it and put it back on track because the track is obviously a good one.
Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honourable Prime Minister, could you tell us how much has been expended on this project to date?
The project so far, the expenditure has been $30 million, and most of that money has been spent in fiscal, with respect to infrastructure and aesthetics. Refurbishment works which included toilet, plumbing repairs, pigeon proofing, ceiling repairs, electrical repairs, and structural repairs had the following expenditure. In 2016-2017, 7.2 million. 2017-2018, 8.8 million. And 2018-2019, 5.6 million. So the largest component of that 30 million expenditure was in the infrastructure side of it.
Supplemental member for Caroni East. Supplemental member for Caroni Central.
Yes. Prime Minister, will there be or is there a strategy for protecting the beneficiaries of this program from negative influence in the communities that we know exist?
Madam Speaker, I'm not sure I understand the question. The entire program is meant to treat with the issues of negative influences on the community. What this is an intervention to do just that. That's what it is. The influences are all there, whether it is in the air, in the ether, in the soil, in the community. But these children are being made to respond positively to the influences around. And in fact, their progress will impact upon the negative influences that you talk about.
Member for Caroni Central. Question number 6.
Yeah. Question number 6, Prime Minister. Given that many businesses have closed permanently, having been unable to recover after months without revenue or support during the COVID crisis, does the Prime Minister intend to meet with business representatives to develop an appreciation from their point of view of what needs to be done to help them to survive and to recover?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister is a part of this government, and the government has been in contact with and have been treating with the issues of the persons identified in this area. There's no separate prime ministerial intervention. There's a government intervention. And may I, Madam Speaker, continue to respond in this way? With respect to the providing assistance to the business community, there's a $30 million grant facility administered by NEDCO, and that is available to small and micro businesses, Madam Speaker. And the businesses are eligible to access this facility, which include existing and previous NEDCO clients and owners of unregistered business. We've also, Madam Speaker, put in place a stimulus for small and medium enterprises, $300 million help for small and medium businesses impacted by COVID. The loan is guaranteed by the government to grant a maximum of 5 years and a 2-year moratorium on the principal. The government guarantees 75% of the loan and no payment to be done for 2 years. The interest on the loan will be paid by the government, and there are no handling fees. Madam Speaker, we also have done things like acceleration of VAT payments. We've done the credit union sector facility, putting $100 million in the credit union. All of these things and more, the government has done. So the Prime Minister is not to be separated from the government of Trinidad and Tobago.
Member for Caroni East.
Does the government have an appreciation of how many small businesses and medium businesses have been folded up or in the process of folding?
I will not allow that as a supplemental question based on the question asked and answered. Member for Caroni Central.
Prime Minister, I'm aware of some of the facilities that you mentioned that are being provided by government. But my difficult question to you is, are they working in the sense of, are these things being used by the people who are meant to benefit from them?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, they will be used over time. Some persons have already begun to access some of them. Others are going to take some more time depending on what you are accessing. And also depending on the size of the business. We've catered for the small, the medium, and the large. And with respect to how quickly they'll be accessed, it all depends on the willingness of the beneficiaries to use them. And of course, we'll try not to be in a position where there are bureaucratic obstructions, which will slow down the process. But, Madam Speaker, they are all facilities available to the national business community.
Supplemental member for Caroni Central.
There is a particular difficulty for the 17,000 or so small and medium businesses with regard to the $300 million loan. In order to get through this crisis, Prime Minister,
Member, could you ask the question? Member, you have only
yes,
15 seconds.
it might require more than the 75 to 375,000, which is available in the system, and it may require less bureaucracy. Could that matter be looked into in the interest of the survival of these businesses?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, wherever there are difficulties, and difficulties will exist in one form or another, what we have done here, Madam Speaker, as I outlined that part of it a while ago, what we have done is to look at the requirement to facilitate, and we have been as facilitatory as we could be. But if there are, in fact, situations which require further adjustments, they will be considered, but I can't say now what that will be, because we have looked at it with a mind to be facilitated. And that is what we have put here in terms of how much money, who's going to qualify, what period of time, how much the government will carry. These are all decisions taken after looking at the whole situation. But of course, Madam Speaker, as you would expect, there will continue to be demands, and we will look at those demands to see whether they're reasonable or whether it can be further facilitated.
Member for Naparima.
Could the Prime Minister, given the Prime Minister's admission that he is not encouraged by the track record of the Police Complaints Authority in bringing investigations to a conclusion, what does his government intend to do to ensure that the facts about the recent shootings of 3 citizens will be determined expeditiously?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I choose my word very carefully when I speak about the work of an independent commission, and therefore I will not respond to any reconstruction by my colleague from Naparima, and except to say that the Police Complaints Authority is an independent body, and I will treat it as such, question or no question.
Supplemental member for Naparima.
Mr. Prime Minister, why has your government in general, and the AG's office in particular, not addressed the issue of staffing and legislative empowerment raised by the Director of the PCA?
I rule that question out of order, having regard to the question asked and the answer given. Supplemental member for Naparima.
Does the Prime Minister have in mind an ideal time frame for the finalization of investigations into the shootings?
Madam Speaker, yes, expeditiously.
The supplemental?
Yes.
Supplemental member for Naparima.
Would the Prime Minister care to quantify that qualitative statement that does not make sense in this issue?
It might not make sense. It might not make sense to the member for Naparima, because precious little makes sense to him.
Right. Member for Naparima, question number 8. Are you still asking that, having regard to the supplemental questions asked by our colleague, the member for Oropuch?
Yeah, I'll still ask it. Could the Prime Minister indicate why, in the light of the findings of numerous comprehensive state commission reports, including that by Professor Selwyn Ryan on problems of inner city communities and youth in those areas, why is he setting up another committee to investigate the crisis?
Madam Speaker, that question has been answered.
Supplemental?
Yes.
Based on the answer.
Yes, I have a supplemental. Based on his answer previously, I have a supplemental.
Proceed.
Prime Minister, have you at all read the Ryan report? And could it not have been used to put in place programs to date?
Okay, I rule that out of order. If you're basing your supplemental on the response before, that has also been asked and answered. Supplemental, member for Naparima.
Prime Minister, is this a strategy to buy time, give the impression that something is being done, and the hope that the issue would go away before the meeting office?
Thank you, Madam.